Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. In this video we're looking at the Thousand Sons preview for 10th edition that was posted on the community website. Thousand Sons are an interesting Chaos Space Marine Legion. I think one of the more flavourable ones, same up there with Death Guard. And it's nice to see what they've done with them in this preview. Previously, they were a very complicated army, and I have to be honest that I never really got my head around it. I kind of had to rely on my opponent knowing their rules and getting it right. Thankfully, the Cabal of Sorcerers, which is their army rule in 10th, is a much more simplified and easier to understand mechanic than it used to be. Now, in your end of your command phase, each model with a Cabal of Sorcerers rule generates your number of Cabal points, which you can use to cast certain rituals. Much simpler, much easier to understand, and condensed down nicely into a little block of text. What can you do with these particular points then? Well, let's take a look. For 2 points, you have Weaver of Fates. So you can allow a Thousand Sons model within 18 inches of the Psyker to reroll that saving throw. Nice. For 5 points, because it jumps up, Temporal Surge. In your shooting phase, you select one friendly Thousand Sons unit within 18 inches of the Psyker that is within engagement range of one, unless it is within engagement range of one or more enemy models. They can make a normal move, but then can't charge. Okay, so it's that old warp time type thing where you can move extra. For 6 points, you Echoes from the Warp, so you can select this Psyker's unit as a target of a stratagem for 0 CP, even if you've already used that stratagem. I've seen this in a few other previews, quite good. Then we start to get to the two silly ones. All right, the first one, Doombolt, is very thematic. It's been a part of Thousand Sons for a long time. For 7 Cabal points, so it is a lot. In your shooting phase, you select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to the Psyker, and you roll a dice. On a 1, the unit takes D3 mortal wounds. On a 2 to 5, it takes D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. And on a 6, they take D3 plus 6 mortal wounds. Now, that's a lot of mortal wounds being thrown out there. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. I know there are units out there, like Librarians, that give you a feel no pain against mortal wounds, but against a lot of them, D3 plus 3 mortal wounds, or even D3 plus 6, is potentially going through an entire unit. I suppose we won't really know whether the points balance out on this, but 7 Cabal points could be pretty much everything you do, but that could be a dead unit gone, done, with no way of stopping it. It is, though, the iconic Thousand Sons power, though. Then you get the last one, Twist of Fate, which I'm not a fan of. I really am not. So for 9 Cabal points, at the start of any phase, you select one enemy unit within 18 inches and visible to the Psyker. To the end of the phase, that unit cannot make armor saves. Who thought this was a good idea? Seriously. Let's just muller all Terminators and MEQs and power armored troops. The saving grace, again, we don't know exactly yet how this will play out, because 9 Cabal points might be only doable in a larger sized game. Or it might be the only thing you do in an entire turn, and it's only one unit. I don't like denying people saves, though. I think that's a bad game mechanic. It never really worked when you had characters like Be'lakor and Skarbrand who could just go, no armor save, no invulnerable save, boom. Not a fan of it. It's a little unfair to me, but hey-ho. We shall have to see whether this works in smaller point games, as I say, or whether 9 Cabal points is going to be a much bigger game needed. Otherwise, those Cabal powers seem quite reasonable. It's just those last 2 are a little too strong for my liking. The detachment is the Cult of Magic, and in your command phase, you can select one of the following abilities to take effect until the start of your next command phase. You can have a Malevolent Charge, where all psychic weapons equipped by Thousand Sons have lethal hits. Psychic Maelstrom, where psychic weapons equipped by Thousand Suns have sustained hits, and Wrath of the Immaterium, where psychic weapons equipped by Thousand Suns have devastating wounds. So this isn't going to be on everybody. This is going to be things like your Sorcerers or Ahriman or Magnus, I assume, because he's going to have a psychic attack and you know it. But it gives you, I suppose, the 10th edition version of being able to deal lots of damage through psychics. Previously, Thousand Suns were like Grey Knights who would just sit there and smite you off the table. This seems like a better way of doing it. But we shall see. No complaints. We get 2 unit previews. We get Ahriman. I'm surprised that we didn't get Magnus. But hey, I'll take Ahriman. Stat-wise, he's quite reasonable. Toughness 4, 3 up save, 5 wounds, 6 up leadership, only 1 OC. Inferno Bolt Pistol, which is as you'd expect. And then a psychic shooting attack called Psychic Stalk. I'm assuming that's like stalking their mind, or rather than projecting a psychic plant into them. But that's a precision psychic attack, 18-inch range. Only 1 attack, hits on 2, strength 6, AP -1, D6 damage. But again, if you've got, you've picked one of these Kindred Sorceries, because that's a psychic weapon, you could get lethal hits, sustained hits, or devastating wounds, which could make that significantly better. Melee-wise, he has the Black Staff of Ahriman, 5 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 7, AP -1, 3 damage. But again, it's a psychic weapon, so you would get those benefits again. On paper, it looks like, oh, okay, that's fairly basic. But when you combine it with the Kindred Sorceries, that's great. Now, he has Cabal of Sorcerers 3, so he's netting you 3 Cabal points a turn. Seems reasonable. He has the Rubric Lord special ability, so each time a model in the unit he is leading and makes an attack, they get +1 to wound. And he is the Arch Sorcerer of Tzeentch. Once per battle, you can select this model to use a ritual for 0 Cabal points. If you do, all the other rules for using rituals still apply. So even so, Ahriman can just go, no armor save to a unit. Okay, it's once per battle. Fine, I'll give you that. But it still means you get to really hamper something that you probably shouldn't do. But the other Cabal powers, that will be nice. I know there's probably Thousand Suns players out there gnashing their teeth going, at this. But one of the things with psychic heavy armies like Thousand Suns, Grey Knights, is the balance issue. Always has have that. But again, let's see. Ahriman also has a 4-up invulnerable save, as I would expect. The next preview is the Rubric Marines. So your basic battle line Thousand Suns troops. They are quite slow. They're only 5-inch movement. Toughness 4, 3-up save, 2 wounds, leadership 6, OC 2. I'm a little surprised the leadership is only 6, considering they are basically ghosts in armor, but I suppose it comes down to the likes of who's leading them. If they get battle shocked, then the unit's not going to really be doing a lot. They have a variety of weapons on here. You've still got things like the Soul Reaper Cannon. You have Warp Smite as a psychic attack from the Sorcerer. Warp Flamers, Warp Flame Pistols, blah. They're all relatively strong strength for an infantry-based weapon, but the AP isn't so bad. Your Warp Smite and your, obviously, Supercharged Plasma Pistol are the only really high AP at -3, and everything is but 1 damage. No complaints there. Looks quite good. And melee weapons, they've got close combat weapons, and the Sorcerer has a force weapon. They are basic. No complaints. They have a special rule, Bringers of Change. Each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, you re-roll the wound roll of 1. If the target of that attack is in range of an objective marker you do not control, you can re-roll the wound roll instead. Okay, so they're looking at basically blasting you off of objectives before they get there. That's quite a nice mechanic, no complaints. War gear option is an icon of flame. So this is your battle standard type thing, I'm assuming. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes a ranged attack, if a critical wound is scored, improve the AP by 1. Okay, nothing in those weapons is particularly high AP, so that's quite nice. And they have the obligatory 5-up invulnerable save. Again, no problems with the option here. Basic troop choices seems quite reasonable. Weapon spotlight. We get the warp blast from the Mutalith Vortex Beast, which is an interesting one to preview because nobody that I know with Thousand Suns has ever played a Mutalith Vortex Beast. So maybe they're just trying to get people to actually play it. And that comes with 3 varieties: a ranged blast, a devastating wounds beam, and a torrent, which ignores cover and is auto hitting. If you're doing the blast, it's D6 plus 3, potentially more because it's blast. Hitting on 3, strength 9, AP minus 2, 2 damage. Fair enough, quite reasonable. The beam with its devastating wounds is only 1 attack, hitting on 3, strength 18, AP minus 4, D6 plus 6. If you really want to get rid of that one guy on an objective, go for it. But this is probably more likely to be aimed at taking out vehicles, walkers, and the like. And then the torrent one is probably the least interesting. 12-inch range, 2d6 auto hits, strength 6, AP minus 1, 1 damage. Again, it's good for clearing out those little guys, or if you're trying to get rid of some wounds on an objective, then go for it. Nothing stands out as being particularly amazing for that, but we will see whether people start playing with this Vortex Beasts. It also has an immaterial flare aura. So while Thousand Suns Psyker unit is within 6 inches of it, each time that unit uses a ritual that specifies a range, you can double that range. Well, that's very nice. Maybe that's what's going to make people play it. Lastly, we have Psychic Dominion as your stratagem. In any phase for 1 CP, after an enemy unit is selecting its target, 1000 Suns unit from your army that has been selected, until the end of the phase, all attacks made against your unit with psychic weapons have the hazardous ability, and all models in the unit get 4-up, feel no pain against psychic attacks. So basically, if you're fighting the likes of Grey Knights, another Thousand Suns army, you're making their attacks potentially dangerous to themselves, and you can pretty much ignore them 50% of the time. That's quite nice and quite thematic. Okay, so overall, not a bad preview. My only concern, as I say, is the Twist of Fate Cabal power, ritual power. Otherwise, what I see there looks very, very good. It still remains to be seen whether they're still going to be exceedingly powerful in the psychic phase. I'm assuming that every unit that has a sorcerer with it is going to get the Warp Smite power, which is going to be quite nasty, but we're going to need to see how that plays out. Overall, a positive for me review, and we'll see what your thoughts are down below. Let me know, give me a thumbs up. What do you think? Do you think, because the main one for me is obviously that Twist of Fate, do you think that's overpowered or undercosted? Do you not? Do you think it's perfectly fine? Are you a Thousand Suns player and saying that because you play Thousand Suns? Let me know down below. So give me that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care, good gaming.